Inside the courtroom, Harold took the century-old courthouse's marble stairs cautiously, gripping the brass handrail as he descended. He didn't care to take a tumble. The bailiff wasn't a young man, and his prosthetic foot made maneuvering the stairs particularly tricky. He exited the courthouse and headed across the street to a 2-story building that had been converted into the public defender's office. The paint on the door designating Rob Ford, public defender of the district, was still shiny, as though it hadn't yet had time to dry. Harold turned the door handle, half expecting the entrance to be locked, but the door opened freely. The reception area was empty. "Mr. Ford?" There was no response. When the bailiff stepped inside, the door shut behind him. Harold made a face. It smelled like there was a sewer backup in here. And since the office was county property, Harold made a mental note to tell Judge Pickens so the judge could get the county commission on top of the problem. As he walked across the reception room, Harold heard the crunch of broken glass under his shoe leather. He looked down and saw a shattered picture frame face down on the floor. Bending over with a grunt of effort, he picked up the frame and examined it. It was a family portrait. The public defender, his wife holding an infant, and 2 young children, a boy and a girl. The bailiff lifted his head and called out again, "Rob, you in here? The judge is waiting on you." He set the frame face up against the wall, then walked a narrow hallway where a closed door bore a plastic nameplate, designating it as the office of Robert Ford, public defender. Harold rapped on the door with 2 knuckles. "Rob, we've got a courtroom full of folks waiting across the street." The smell of sewage was stronger outside the office door. The bailiff's head bobbed as he swallowed. His hand shook when he turned the doorknob. When he pushed the door open, a low moan escaped his throat. Moving involuntarily, he stepped back into the hallway and turned his head away, burying his nose in his sleeve. The public defender's body hung by a leather strap tied to an overhead light fixture. On the floor, a wooden office chair lay on its side, near the puddle of excrement under the hanging man's still body. The bailiff stole another glance, to determine whether there was any chance the man was still alive. One look confirmed it. The gray face, bulging, sightless eyes, limp hands left no doubt. He pulled the door shut and made his way out of the building with speed that defied his age. Once safely outside, he leaned against the rough stucco exterior of the building and drew deep breaths before pulling his phone from his pocket to call the judge. As he scraped his shoes on the sidewalk to remove the glass particles, the bailiff muttered to himself, "Here we go again." Chapter 1. 100 miles away from Douglas County, I hurried into the elevator of a 1970s office tower in downtown Birmingham, Alabama. I checked my reflection in the metal doors, fruitlessly attempting to finger-comb my wind-whipped red hair, before the door opened onto the 11th floor offices of my workplace, Simon, Shelton & Associates. I dropped my briefcase inside my office. The color scheme was beige. Paint, paper, carpet, upholstery. Even my wall hangings were strictly business. My license to practice, 2 diplomas from the University of Alabama, and my framed law review certificate. The last one hung directly across from my desk, where I could see it, because I'd worked my butt off to obtain it. The only treasures in my office were some framed pictures, which sat on my desktop facing me. I had a smiling snapshot of my parents, taken a year before they were killed in a highway collision when I was in college. All of the other frames held photos of my 5-year-old son, Andy. The wallpaper on my computer screen displayed my favorite shot, taken this past March, the Saturday before his open-heart surgery, when we toured the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. A proud Andy sitting beside a bronze football player with a statue of Bear Bryant grinning behind him. I quickly settled down to business, editing an appellate brief that one of the senior partners had handed off to me. It was meticulous work, and I took care to double-check the quotation.